I'm pretty psyched to talk about Bitcoin to you all tonight because there's been a lot of press lately about Bitcoin. Does any one of you have ever heard about Bitcoins here?
It went down 25% in 2 hours last week.
Yeah, it went down like 1,000% in 2011. It plummeted from $30 to like $2 in 2011. There's been a lot of bad press about Bitcoin, and there's also been a lot of good press. Does any one of you here own Bitcoins? Well, I do. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is basically a way to transfer ownership of valueless tokens from one point to another. It's just someone came up with the idea that we could make a limited supply of tokens and have a technology to allow them to be transferred from an owner to another owner in a decentralized way. What does it mean? You've all heard about Facebook credits, right? Who hasn't? Nobody. Basically, Facebook is in the middle. He holds accounts and says, David has 10 Facebook credits. He wants to give 5 to Stephan. Okay, we do the transaction. I keep accounts. With Bitcoin, it's all decentralized. There's no central authority anywhere. And that's when I discovered that in 2010. I was like, holy shit, that's magic. I can actually give something to someone on the internet and I don't own it anymore. And there's no way I can cheat. It's fully decentralized. So tonight I'm not going to go too much into the economic and societal aspects, but I'm going to tell you a bit more about the technical aspects. How does it work? Does anyone of you here understand a bit how it works? How you can give something to someone over the internet and just not have it anymore? Basically, there's two sides of Bitcoin. There are the magical technical side and the financial side too, the economical side. The economical side is pretty simple. It's like there are 21 million of them, not one more, and there's not going to be any more created ever. And that's easily checkable by an open source program. And nobody can cheat. Nobody can decide tomorrow there's going to be like 42 million. Nobody can decide that tomorrow your Bitcoins are going to be like 10% less. Nobody can block your Bitcoins over the weekend, block all transactions and decide that, no, you have to pay 10%. So that's what's really appealing about Bitcoins. It's just tokens. People do whatever they want with it. They give whatever value they attach to it. It's just the free market. If people are willing to pay 20 bucks for them, they'll pay 20 bucks. If people think they're worthless, they'll just discard them. Today, people think they're worth about $70. When I started Bitcoin, they were worth about 6 cents. Because someone decided to buy them for 6 cents. Someone speculated that they will have value at some point in the future. Because they're very brilliant technical invention and they are going to solve a problem. The problem is basically that people want to be able to exchange value freely, without the control of banks, without being limited, without having to show some ID, just exchanging. So the price of Bitcoin over time, this is where I started. It was worth nothing, but it already had the potential in it. It was already limited. It was already, technically, it didn't change since that time. People discovered it, there was a lot of hype about it. The price soared to about $30 and then crashed. Obviously, the Bitcoins I had, I sold them here. I'm not a financial guy, I love technology and Bitcoin is really, really brilliant from a technology point of view. So how does Bitcoin work? Bitcoin solves two problems at once. It solves the problem of authenticating a transaction. That was a solution that was already well known for quite a bit of time. It uses asymmetric cryptography. If I give 1 Bitcoin to Stephan, I use my private key to sign a transaction saying, I, David, send 1 of my Bitcoins to Stephan. And I send it not to Stephan, but to his public key. If any one of you is familiar with asymmetric crypto, it's pretty easy. I use my private key to sign a message giving 1 thing to Stephan's public key. So that's one of the sides of the problem that's solved by Bitcoin. And the real intelligence in the invention is that it solved a second problem at this very same time. The second problem is the double spending problem. Now imagine I have one Bitcoin attached to my public key. I want to give it to Stephan and to someone else at the same time. Who am I giving it to? This is the double spending problem. Bitcoin solved this problem by introducing a decentralized timestamping server called the blockchain. How does it work? Basically, when you do a transaction, it's just a signed message. You put it in a block. You just broadcast it over the network. And somewhere, someone is going to do a proof of work and seal a block, make it unchangeable. And once my transaction is included in the block, additional blocks are going to come on top of it. And in order to reverse my transaction and spend the same Bitcoin twice, I'm going to have to do the same work twice, because creating a block is very hard. It's just basically brute forcing SHA 265. It requires a lot of computer work. When I started, I was creating blocks on my computer. It was just a normal computer that could be used for gaming, for anything. And creating a block would take me statistically about 2 hours. So every 2 hours, my computer would brute force the problem and add a block to the blockchain and chain blocks together. But that's quite easy. Anyone can like round up 10 computers and like do the same amount of work in like 10 minutes. How does Bitcoin deal with that? The more people that are working on the same problem, the harder the problem becomes. It auto-balances itself so that a block is emitted every 10 minutes on the network. It's like a heartbeat. Every 10 minutes, transactions are packaged and chained together. So if I give 1 Bitcoin to Stephan, I just wait approximately like 20 minutes. The transaction is in 1 block to which 2 blocks are chained. And it becomes extremely hard to reverse the transaction because I have to round up the same amount of power that the whole network combined. So if there are like 10,000 people mining on the Bitcoin network, I have to find like 10,000 people to do the exact same work a second time. That's the base of Bitcoin. It's based on the proof of work. Actually, the proof of work is not an invention of the inventor of Bitcoin. It's an invention that was called Hashcash. What was Hashcash? Hashcash was basically a way to prevent spam. The idea behind it was that to each email you would send, you would attach a small proof of work proving that some computer somewhere had worked for like 30 seconds. It's quite inexpensive if you're sending a legitimate mail to have your computer wait 30 seconds before sending a mail, just brute forcing a problem. But if you're doing spam, it's extremely expensive if you have to wait 30 seconds of processing time for each mail. So that was the proof of work concept. How do you prove that your computer has worked? You just brute force a problem. For example, if I want to prove my computer has worked for 10 minutes, I take a random stack of data and I have something vary in it. And I take the same hash of different data. Like I repeat the operation until the hash is under a certain target. And statistically, I can adjust the proof of work to prove whatever amount of work I want. So Bitcoin works with that to ensure that it's incredibly hard to reverse transactions. So what do you end up with? You end up with tokens that have no value in themselves, they're worthless, but they're cryptographically secure and you can't double spend them. What is that? That's money. It's gold. Gold is easy. You can check that it's gold. You check its its density, you check that it's gold, you know? It's limited. It has value. It has value because it's limited. It has value because you're sure that someone somewhere will take your gold and exchange it for food, for stuff, for services, for goods. That's what Bitcoin is about. And what are we doing about it, around it? We're building services to make it easy for everyone to have a Bitcoin wallet, and to exchange Bitcoins for cash, to send us euros and exchange it against anyone who already owns Bitcoins for cash. That's what we're doing. So that's how Bitcoins are generated. Bitcoins, what gives the incentive for people to provide their processing power in the network? Because the more people that are in the Bitcoin network, the more secure the network becomes. Well, Bitcoin solved this beautifully by giving some Bitcoins to the people who contribute. Plain simple. If you give your computer power to the network, you get some reward. You get some Bitcoins in exchange, and that's called mining. And it was very interesting when it started, because nobody was mining. When I started, I was generating something like 300 Bitcoins a day, which today that's like a small fortune, but obviously I sold it all when it was like worthless. More people started getting into it for the money, for like generating free money on your computer was very appealing. And it strengthened the Bitcoin network, and it made it more secure, and people were noticing that. And everyone was noticing that Bitcoins was getting more and more secure because it has the right incentives. If you use Bitcoins, you have the incentive to participate to the network and to make it more secure and spread it around. I don't even know why I was coming to this, but that's the creation of Bitcoins. That's how they're created. Until late 2012, every 10 minutes, 50 new Bitcoins were created for each block. Each person that created a block, because he had the chance to find the proof of work, was awarded 50 Bitcoins. That's how you would incentivize people to create blocks and provide their computer power. And the more time will pass, the less Bitcoins will be generated. Currently, yeah, there are about 11 million Bitcoins in circulation. That's about half the money supply. And it's going to be, the generation will end around 2030. Well, yeah, well, the bulk of the Bitcoins will have been generated in 2030. Transaction fees. When you send Bitcoins, it used to be free. Like I could send Stephan Bitcoins for nothing. But transaction fees are going to replace the block reward as incentive for people to mine on the network, to do the proof of work, to create blocks. That's how the system is going to be sustainable in the long run, when no new Bitcoins are going to be generated every 10 minutes. Well, that's pretty much it. If you have questions, feel free, or we'll talk about it around the beer. Thank you very much.